Hi everyone, I'm Rosemarie, and today we're going to be painting the elephant bank and the owl bank. So depending on which one you got, you can either start with what I start with or fast forward to the opposite one. So I'll start with the elephant, and you have your brushes, you have your paint, and you should have some paper towels and a water bowl, which I have over here. This is so you can wash your brushes in between colors. It could be any bowl that you have in the house that you can do that with, because you need to wash your brush in between colors. So what we're going to do is we're going to always put one coat on the whole entire animal. I find that that's better because then there won't be white spots. If you try to do the pink first, or you try to do the mouth or the eyes first, it's very hard to go around those items. So it's best to do the whole piece in one color. So I'll paint along with you so that you have an idea of how to apply the paint. You have the larger brush to put the gray on with, and then if you wanted a brown, I mean, you could do a brown elephant if you wanted, but I did mine in gray, so that's how I'll do my sample also. So I always start with first thing is take the stoppers out of the bottom. You don't want to have to paint them. If they're a little difficult and you have to go around them, fine. You could always do the bottom later on and have someone pull it out for you. So put it on with the big brush, the bigger of the two brushes, and smooth it out, nice and smooth, before you go and pick up some more color in your brush. Okay? Nice and smooth. We want to get all those ridges out, so you don't want to dip for more paint until you work out that color. Get all that color out of your brush, and that allows it to dry very fast too. So, you see that? And it almost dries almost immediately. I mean, some of it is, if you see it shiny looking, that means it's still wet. So I want you to make sure you pull it out before you dip for more paint. Okay? And we'll just put it on nice and smooth. And this looks like it's got pretty good coverage with one coat, so one coat is probably good enough for this elephant. And I went over his feet, go over his feet, go over everything, because any color that's on this elephant, including the white on his tail and the white on his feet, is done over the gray. So put the gray on the whole piece, and then just go back and double check it to see if you have any white spots. This will take a few minutes to do, so just take your time. There's no rush. Normally I start on the bottom, but because I want to get this going, I'm just going to leave the bottom till later on, and I could do the bottom at another time, which you can also. And you should always paint bottoms of pieces. I was taught when I started in ceramics that a piece is never completed unless the bottom is done. But it's your piece, and you can do what you like to do. But remember, smooth out those colors, because if you keep them wet, you'll never be able to put other colors on top of them. So make sure that that's nice and dry. You can hold him by his trunk, you can hold him by his ears. I guess the trunk is a good way to hold him while you're painting. And you don't have to paint inside. There's no reason to have to do that. And you have a few different colors there, so if you choose to make your elephant unique, to do it differently than I've done it, you are the artist. So you do whatever you want. And I appreciate all of you getting these kits from the library and choosing to do ceramics. It's a lot of fun. I've been doing ceramics for over 40 years, and I haven't gotten tired of it yet. I really, really enjoy ceramics. And I hope you do too. And I'm thankful to the library for allowing me to come into your homes to share this experience with you. It does take a little bit longer because of the size of the brush, but I find that this brush is really good, the flat brush. It makes your paint smooth out a lot better than the rounded one, but the rounded one is good for smaller areas. Working my way around to the front now. And you don't have to work as fast as I do. I'm just doing this for instruction purposes, so you can always pause the video and base coat, and when you get it done, you put the video back on again. Okay, we're getting there, getting around to his face now. Put it in the ears. See, now don't leave your paint with the ridges like I have here. See that? You want to make sure that you smooth that out. The paint really goes far. I'm getting in his ears, even though the pink is going to go over the ears, I'm putting the gray in the ear. Oh, I missed the back. Okay, so now I'm getting around to his nose, but if this was put on properly, look, I can touch that and I have nothing on my hands right now because if you really pull the color out, it dries really fast. This is called bisque ceramics after it's fired. It starts out as clay, and after it's fired in the kiln, the kiln's like a very, very, very hot oven, and it then becomes bisque. It's called bisque. When it's white like this, it's called bisque, and it's ready to be painted. So the paints, these are acrylic paints, and if you ever need more colors or anything, you can always go to Michael's and just buy acrylics. And the bisque absorbs the moisture out of the clay. I guess it's the water out of the clay. They are water-based. They are all non-toxic. Okay, I just have to do his trunk, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to spot check him. And by that I mean going around and making sure that I don't have white spots or any light areas that I want to go over a second time. Because my paint dried so fast, I can go right over those areas. So I kind of look at it as I go around, like my ear looked a little light, so I just went back in and did a little more on that. Now I'm on his trunk. Okay, so now I'll look him over. And if I think he needs more in any spots, like over here looks a little bit light, I'll just go back over it again. Okay, I think we're good. And like I said, you can always go back later and you could do more at any time. You could always put more paint on the piece. These paints are self-sealing. So you really don't have to spray them or seal them, but if you wanted them to be shiny, you can get paint-on sealer at Michael's. They have matte, they have gloss. Okay, so he's base coated. I just didn't do the bottom, but I'll get back to that later on, all right? So now when you wash your brush, this is really important. Don't bang your brush in the bottom of the bowl. If you bang your brush in the bottom of the bowl, it's going to split the hairs open, and then it won't be such a good brush to paint with anymore. I go back and forth like this on the bottom. And at the end, when you're finished for the day, you should always wash them with soap and water. And when you wash them, always try to keep their shape. Pull them back to the shape that they were. And they'll last a while. Okay, so I wash that out. And then you want to blot. If you're going to use it right away, blot it on a paper towel. I have a paper towel here, and I just blot the brush on a paper towel so that it's not wet. If I was to go into another color, and the brush was wet, the paint would run down the piece, and that's very difficult to clean up. So it's easier to just be cautious in the beginning and make sure that you don't have a wet brush going into your next color. So the next color I'm going to do is white, and we are going to be using this bigger brush again. So make sure that you really wipe it dry on a paper towel. And I have bigger bottles than you have, huh? I'll put some white in my palette, and I'm going to pick up very, very, very little white in my brush, and I mean like nothing. You see that little tip? Don't put a lot of paint in your brush. And then I blot it out on the paper towel. Just take some of it out. You really want nothing in your brush. It's called dry brushing or wet brushing. And to do that, you see on the top of his trunk, I'm just going to go across the top of his trunk like this. Can you see that? All right. And then I'm going to tip his ears like that. We'll go forward and back. Pick up a little bit more, blot it out. You don't want a lot of paint in the brush. Okay, tip his ears. In ceramics, a big thing is dry brushing. It gives you like an antique look sometimes on pieces when you base coat it in a dark color, the piece, and then you highlight with a lighter color over it. And sometimes I go over it twice because the second time that you do it, the white becomes much whiter and much easier to see. All right, every time it's a dot of paint, it's a blot on the towel. And we'll do some on his feet. And I'm just going across it lightly. I'm not repainting his feet. I don't know if you could see what I'm doing, but I'm not repainting his feet. I'm just highlighting them so that they're a little lighter gray. A little bit of paint again, blot it out. This is just to give some character to the piece. Now, if you wanted to make an elephant in a different color, like I said, feel free. You have brown. You can make a pink elephant if you'd like. Okay, can you see the white on there and then the white on there? So the one I have in this hand, I've only done once. This one I've done 2 or 3 times, and see how the white is more vivid. You can see the white a lot more. But I don't paint it on, okay? I dry brush it on. So again, a little bit of paint, take it out of the brush, and then highlight. And you could see that foot there, how much darker it is than that foot. Or I should say lighter with the white. Each time that you do it, and you just don't paint it, just put it on very, very, very lightly. And I go back and I do the areas that I've done once, I do a second time. Okay. Oh, the tail. I put a little bit on his tail. I forgot his tail. I work up from the bottom. And you can use your other brush if you're more comfortable with the small brush. I just use this on its side and go across his tail like so. Okay, and like I said, that's kind of dark, so I would go over it a second time once it dries. Sometimes you have to wait and go back when it's dry, but the second coat makes the color pop more. Okay, see that? All right, are those the areas I did? I believe so. The nose, the trunk. Okay, so now we'll go to the pink. Now, I'm going to wash this brush because we're not going to use this brush for the pink. Pink, okay. So we're going to take the little brush, we're going to do a little pink in his nose. And that you can paint on. I have it right in that center piece in his nose. Oops. And if you go out of the lines, rinse your brush, dry it out, go back with the gray like I just did, and just put the gray back over it. I would do your touch-ups at the end. If you need to go back and touch anything up, I would just do your detail and then go back after and fix up any messes that you made. But remember, the paint must be dry. For you to go over one color with another color, make sure that your color underneath is dry. Or if you were to mix the pink with the gray, you'd get another color altogether. It would be like blending colors. You don't want to do that. You want to layer them. So make sure that your colors are dry. So I did that. I did a little on his mouth. Okay, have some on his mouth. And then I did some in his ears. Oops, I can do some this way. It's hard to do it and show you as I'm doing it. It's like painting upside down. And it doesn't have to be solid in his ears. Okay, whoops, a little high. I did it very thin in his ears. And if it's too light, you can always go back over it again. Okay, where else? Oh, his toes. We have to do his toes. Okay, I have his ears done. And toenails now. Now we'll do just his toenails. And it's hard to figure out, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4 on the back feet. And on the front feet, I have 1, 2, 4. There's 4 on each of them. Oh, this one looks like it has 5. He's got a crazy amount of toenails. I think I missed one here, so. Anyway, do as many as you want. I have 4 and 5 on some of them. And they're like little half moons. Okay? I'll leave it like that so you could see that right now. I think 4 on each one is good. I have 4 on that one. And if you can't see it, because sometimes, you know, the detail is there, it's easy to see, sometimes you can't, just do little half moons. It's like a half a circle, upside down. Like that. There. Just got to watch leaning it. I see that I'm leaning it, and because it's wet, it's on the paper, and then if you sit it down, it'll get onto the bottom of your piece. So maybe just hold it up in the air until it dries. Okay, now, okay, we have white and we have pink dots. All right, now the way to do the bigger dot, I'm going to hold this underneath from the bottom, and the way to do the bigger dot is to take the back end, the handle of your brush. Maybe I'll use this other brush a little bigger. I'm using the pointy brush handle, looks like it's a little bigger. Lay it down on the piece and make a circle with it. Just get bigger and bigger and bigger. You want it to be even bigger than that. Okay, you're actually making a circle with the handle of the brush. All right, I'll do a few of those around. Start in the middle and make a circle. You can see what I'm doing. Do it again. Start in the middle and just keep circling it until it gets bigger. If it doesn't get big enough, you have to dip for more paint. Start on the outside of the circle and go around, and just where it's skipping, just pounce it in there and fill it in. Okay. All right, so you're going to do that, and I'll let you finish yours. And then we're going to do the white. Now the white I don't make as big. See, the pink is a very big circle, and the white is a lot smaller circle. So the white I just do kind of in between, and you can make it smaller, just to give him some character. Okay. The back end of the handle of the brush is the best way to do dots. There is another tool that's sold in the stores too. It's a sponge on a stick, and they are sponges in different size circles. So you could also do that too if you had any of those. But you know, there's so many different tools that you could use to do all creative things. You could do stencils on pieces. Sometimes what I even do is, once the pink was dry, you could put a white dot in the center of the pink, which is cute also. Okay, I'm going to let you finish that. I just wanted to show you how to do it. And then you're going to do the same thing with the black. You're going to, not dots, you're going to be doing the eyes with the back end of the brush. So again, with the back end of the brush, and you could work out of your jar that you have there, and just put the black on the back end of the brush, and move him out of the way a second so we could see. And you're just going to do a dot. Okay, one dot. Whoop, where is he? There it is. You see that on that side? And then I dip again, and I do another dot. You know, you don't have to move it around, just dot it, and that's it. See the two eyes? Nice and simple. All right? And he's pretty much done. So we can put him aside and start working on the owl. All right? Now, if, if anybody has any questions, because I kind of went through it quickly with this, and you could take your time and paint it on your own, but you have my email in the directions, so if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me, and I will answer anything, any questions that you have. So now let's paint the owl, okay? Put him back here so you could see him. So I did the owl in brown. I have my brown here. Now, owls can be black and white also, so if you want to do it that way, you can. Okay, and again, I'm going to go back to the bigger brush. Just make sure that you clean off the black that you have on the handle. That's why you have to have paper towels and water bowls around. All right, and we're going to paint. Okay, you know what? Instead of starting with the brown, let's put the white on the belly first while the brush is clean and it doesn't have dark color in the hairs of the brush. Let's do the white on the belly. So we're doing the white just on the belly. Yep, okay, so you should have white out and nice and smooth. Now make sure that you pull your color out because it dries very fast if you pull it out. If you leave it with a lot of ridges in the paint, it'll never dry, and we won't be able to work on top of it if we have to put other color on top of it, and it's hard to handle too. So just make sure that you get the color nice and smooth. See, I keep going back and forth over what I've just done, and I don't load my brush up with tons and tons of paint. I just put a little bit in the tip of the brush. You can always go back and put more. Okay, now that went fast, but like I said, if you're not keeping up with me, just pause the video and go back to it. But I want you to put the white on the belly first, all right? Then we're going to wash the brush, swish it in the water. Here's my water bowl, swish it in the water. Okay, now don't go dipping into the next color until you blot the water out of the brush, or the color will be running. And then it won't cover. You see, I got pretty good coverage on this, but it won't cover if you have water in your brush. So make sure you dry your brush out. Never smash your brush down, work it on the side. Always try to keep the shape of the hairs of the brush when you paint. Okay, so now we're gonna start the brown. I did brown, so I'm gonna stick to the brown. And I usually start on the bottom. If you didn't get your stopper out, you could wait and do the bottom later on when you have a parent who could help you get that stopper out of there. It's a little difficult to pull out. Nice and smooth. I'm going to do the brown on everything but the white. You don't have to do it where the feet are going either. So when you get up to here, up to the front, you could leave this to be the black. Okay, see him? All right. And you can see him better that way. Whoops. Okay, there we go. All right. So get a coat on there. Now I'm going to work my way up. Now this is a little bit more tricky over here. So what I do is I flatten my brush out, work it and flatten it out, and then just scoop it around. See that, the hairs on the brush? Look at a nice edge that you get with the hairs on the brush. You just lay your brush down and you very, very, very gently, very slowly scoop it around, and then make sure that your paint is smooth. That'll give you a nice edge. But if you want to go to the small brush to do your edge, just stay away from it for now, and then you can go back to it later with the smaller brush. Now I want you to go over the eyes with the brown. I'm going to work my way around now to the bottom first. See, and I keep going back to what I put down when I first put my brush down, because I had a lot more paint on the brush. When you dip into the paint, you always have a lot more on your brush. So you don't want to leave it like that. See that? Look how far that will go. Just keep smoothing it out. And that will dry very fast for you if you do it like that. Get his wings. All of the colors, any colors, other colors that we do it on top of the brown. The black is on top of the brown, the white is on top of the brown. and the yellow can be on top of the brown. Get under his wing. Black covers everything, so wherever the black is going to go, you really don't have to worry about it too much. And I'm going to go over his eyes. And now when I get down here, see, now I splashed. Yep. Now this is a trick that I learned a long time ago. Saliva has enzymes in it and it helps get the paint off. So if I go out of the lines, look at that. It took the brown right off of it. So I could touch it up with a little white after if it's discolored. But over here, under here, you might want to wait and you might want to do this with your little brush because it's so close to the white. Okay? Whatever you're comfortable with. All right, but right over the whole eye. Trying to do it with the big brush, but it probably would be easier for you to use the smaller brush to do it. Okay. I'll work my way around the back now. Now I work fast, but if you aren't keeping up with me, you can just pause the video and go back and start where you left off and, you know, on to the next step, so you could take your time. Now you could make him two-tone too. I mean, you could do half of him in gray and half of him in the brown. You could do him in black and white. Like I said, it's your piece, you're the artist, and you can do whatever you'd like. A little bit more of this. When you're finished painting it, I would go back and just double check to make sure that you don't have any white spots showing. Make sure you get under those wings. Now I'm on the tricky part again, around his body. Okay, so I have a coat on it. Yep, I just see a whole spot that I missed under his, I don't know what these are called on the top. Are they ears? I don't know. Okay. If I see any light spots, I'm just going back and going over them a little. All right, I have one coat on him. Now I'm going to wash my brush out really well and dry it again really well and swish it. Don't bang it. Swish it back and forth. So you're always flattening the hairs of the brush like so. And if you still have some brown on it, you can take your paper towel and just wipe it out. See, I still got some brown on there. Wipe that out, and then let's see, let me get this out of your way. We'll go black last, because black, once it gets in the brush and gets in the water, it really can be very messy. So let's do, with the little brush, let's do a little bit of the yellow color on his beak. And that you're just painting on with your small brush. Okay, right there. That you don't need much of it all. Okay, so now with the bigger brush, I'm going to pick up a little bit of white, and I'm going to highlight around the eyes. And you need nothing for this, like really nothing. Pick up a little bit of white, and I want you to wipe it out on the towel. See, a little bit of white, just the tip of the hairs. Now take your paper towel and blot that out. Okay, now you see how feathered it is around the eyes? How you do that is you lay your brush flat. And when you lay your brush flat, you're not really filling in the crevices. Can you see that? All right, lay your brush flat. Now some of my brown must have been a little wet, but I'll just let it dry and go back over it again. Flat brush. This way, all those little nooks and crannies stay with the brown. Again, I'm going to put a little bit of paint in the brush, and I'm going to wipe it out. Now, because I got brown in my brush, my brown was a little wet, I'm going to do it a couple of times to clean out the brown. But no water. I'm just going to do it with the white. And again, I'm going to do it on this side. Lay your brush flat. And that's called dry brushing. When you dry brush, the darker color remains in the crevices. It's like an antiquing, and the lighter color is on the raised area. Now, that's very light, so I'd like to go over it again. So now I'll go back to that eye, which I hope is dry. And again, I'm going to clean out the brown I have in my brush. See, it's better if you let this dry for a while, but I'm doing it to show you, so I don't have the time to let it dry. So you can let this dry and then go back to it when the brown is really dry. Okay, so I'm going to do it again. Now I want you to see the second time how much whiter it came than the first time. This is one coat here, this is two coats here. And as long as you do it in a dry brush effect, a little bit of paint, every time you dip in the white paint, you wipe it, every time, okay? And you will get a buildup of color, but still keep the darker color, the brown or whatever color you chose, to stay in the crevices, and that's called dry brushing. Now I did them both 2 times. You could even do it again. I mean, if you went back over it again, each time that you do it, I'll show you. I'll do this one more time. But if you try to do that with your first coat, you'll be filling in all those brown crevices, and we don't want to do that. See, now that's 3 times. The third time really makes a big difference. I like it with the 3 times, but it's your piece. You could do it as many times as you like. But look at the difference. Now this one I didn't do as many times. This one looks like it has 2 coats, and this one has 3 coats. All right? So now you can rinse your brush out again, swish it in the water, dry it really well on the paper towel, and we're going to be doing the black now. So let me, I think I have enough black in here. I'll work right out of my cap because we don't need much. Now we're going to apply the black in the same fashion that we did around the eyes. It's just feathered on. So you're going to feather it on the, if these are ears, and on the wings. Okay, and then you can paint it on the toes with the smaller brush. But let's do the feathering first. So again, I put a little bit of black in the brush, just the tip. You don't need a lot. Blot it out. You don't want a lot of paint, and feather it down and up on the end of his wings. Now, if you feather it right, you almost get like a little wispy edge on there. So, I missed a spot here, but the black will cover it. So I go both ways. Go one way and then go the other way. Okay, you see that? All right, and you can see that on there. So each time I dip, I wipe, dip, wipe. So then the same thing up here. You're hitting that high edge, just feathering it on. So I go up, and then I turn it over and I go down. every time I dip into the black paint, I wipe it. One way and then the other way. Okay, so I just have to do the top here, and then we have to do the eyes, and we're pretty much done with it. So you feather down, and then you feather up. And you see the little wispy edge that it gives you? Okay. Now we'll take the smaller brush, and we'll paint his feet. Okay, can you see that, what I'm doing? Where is he? Oh, there he is, on the side. Little bit of paint in the brush, and scoop it on, like that. Gives you that little half moon on the top there. What does he have? He has six little toes. What do we call an owl's toes? I don't know. It's something for you to look up. One, two, three on this side. Now I see some spots. I got white on his body, so I'll have to go back and touch that up. Okay, so I have the black on his toes. And you see the little bit of white I got on his body? So I'm just going to go back and touch that up with my brown. Okay, now his eyes. Let me shake this up, because I'm working out of the cap of the bottle, so I don't have a lot of paint in there. So I'm going to just shake it up again. And I want you to use the handle of your brush. The handle, not the hairs, the handle. You dip into the black, and you put it down on his eye, and if you want it a little bigger, you just make a circle with the handle of the brush. Okay? Nice and easy. The handle of the brush makes a perfect circle every time. And if you wanted to do that little white spot that I did in the eye, you could even take a little toothpick or take the back end of the other brush, and because it's a little bit smaller, and once the black is dry, you can put the little highlight in there. And that is shows a reflection of light. And if you look at anybody's eyes, look at somebody next to you, look at their eyes, you'll see a light reflection in the eye. And that's what that symbolizes by putting that little white dot there. So I think we pretty much finished him. Okay, and this is the other one. We did the elephant earlier. And this is not my finished one, but here's my finished one. It's my finished elephant and my finished owl. Okay. And I think that we're all done. So like I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me, and I'll be able to answer anything that you have. And I want to thank all of you for taking the class today, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope all of you have a very, very healthy and happy Thanksgiving. Thank you again.